I'd like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for September 12th, 2023 at 6 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attendance roll call.
Commissioner Graff. Here. Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Kubacki.
Here.
Commissioner Gazana.
Here.
Commissioner Buckmaster.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Mayor Pitfalski.
Here.
Planner Trizbotowski.
Here. We have a quorum. Thank you. Statement of public notice.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Friday, September 8th.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting on June 6th and August 1st, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
Any comments, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved unanimously. Consent business. Resolution PC 048-2023, approval of a 4-lot certified survey map for the Lashkin property located at W194 South 6968 Hillendale Drive, tax key number 2180-061002. Resolution PC 049-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Muskego Youth Football located at South 75 West 16399 Hilltop Drive, tax key number 2200.998.001, and Resolution PC 050-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Dish Wireless located at West 146 South 6360 Test Corners Drive, tax key number 2165.998.002.
Motion to approve and gross.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Old business for consideration, Resolution PC 004-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Jewel Homes located at West 173 South 7600 Westwood Drive, tax key number 2196.031. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you guys may recall, this item was back in front of us back in 2022 for the original approval of converting this older building to new storage use with an addition that John Jewell was proposing here for his business and personal use. This then also came back to the Plan Commission not too long ago, back in February, regarding some requirements of curbing. The idea of the original approval was if the parking lot was completely repaved, you needed curbing. When the owner went to do the work, they realized it was too bad to repair, so they started to start the process to repave it. At that time is when the city brought to their attention that requirement about adding curbing if they had to repave it. And at that time, they came to Plan Commission to ask for a waiver then to not have curbing. Long and the short, Plan Commission basically kind of said, hey, if all the other stuff on the site is taken care of because the site wasn't fully completed yet, you consider waiving the requirement, and that's what brought us back here today, as this was the date that was determined. So in the updated supplement, you'll see there were 13 items that when we did our initial kind of re-review on the site that we brought up to the owner as being concerned. Some of those were from our own site visits and some were some talking to some neighbors. That email with those details was sent to John Jewell, and he did take care of numerous items on that. We can kind of go through the items quickly and let you know which ones may be outstanding and which ones are addressed. First one was basically talking about long grass on the site. The grass has since been cut. There are pictures in front of you that were taken this morning, so you can see the condition currently. The grass has been cut. One thing we would just ask is that this stay cut on a regular maintenance schedule. I think, John, you mentioned maybe keeping on the same contract with the shopping center, right? So that way it will be maintained regularly so that the weeds and long grasses don't become an issue. So I believe that's taken care of. Item 2 was there was some paint area that needed to be touched up by the front door, just some overspray. That's been taken care of. There's pictures that show that. Item number 3 included some brickwork. There was some brickwork that definitely needed some work, some brick that were like kind of missing or pitted or eroded away. The bulk of those areas have been addressed. I know Mr. Jewell mentioned that the mason's been out there and doing some work, and you'll notice the photos that most of that's been addressed. There are a few small areas that are kind of in the front where there's some minor separations and stuff, but that's not really a concern of staff. I think our bigger issue was some of the big kind of pitted hole areas, which have been predominantly repaired. So overall, I don't have an issue with that, as it's been good effort put into that. As far as number 4 goes, there was an inlet structure that's kind of in the front portion of the site, on the southwest portion of the site. There was just some questions about the placement of that. That one really wasn't discussed as much. Water does appear to be draining to it, but we'll kind of talk a little bit more about the drainage in a second. Number 5 was relating to overall drainage, on the site. There were definitely some areas that appear, especially on the northwest corner, where there kind of had to be a little trenching done to help drainage flow. That was one of the ideas or the reasons why curbing we were told wouldn't work, was because of drainage. It definitely looks like there's still some areas, you can see in some of the photos, where there's still standing water. You can see some of the areas there's some washout. I guess I don't know really how to address that, but normally we would want to avoid those. Typically curb and gutter could avoid at least the washout. So it sounds like there was going to be some more grading work done to kind of help get the water to where it needs to go. That one's still kind of a little bit in limbo or in the works, I guess. As far as number 6 go, there was a light installed that didn't meet our lighting requirements. That light has since been removed. If they do want lighting, they can, as long as it meets the city requirements and the photometric levels and such. But the light that was in question was removed. There was some questions about the washout, and I forgot about this, I guess there's going to be another lift of asphalt added, and that may help with that. That was per the applicant. Number 8, related to some of the rutting areas. There was some kind of note about, not being able to control where people drive. We understand that, but that's one of the main reasons we like curbing, is to keep people where they should be and not be. A bump on the curb's a real quick reminder to move over. As far as number 9, there was some storage behind the building that has since been removed. One of the things that we brought up but really wasn't addressed was behind the building, which has been cleaned up. The weeds have been cut. All the storage has been removed. You can see it on the last page of the photos on the bottom. But it's still kind of just this gravelly area. Definitely not going to be easy to mow or maintain. I think it's an area that we were under the impression was going to be sodded and seeded, so it could be maintained mowed with the rest of the site. So I believe that's something we should kind of look at. I think it's an easy fix, and it's easier to maintain it if you can run a mow over it rather than trying to do something with the gravel. Especially because it's abut someone else's backyard. As far as number 11, there was some trailer on site. I believe that has since been removed, so we don't need to worry about that. Relating to number 12, there was some tree planting requirements along the lot line that weren't initially addressed. From what I've heard as of earlier today or yesterday, it sounds like the neighbor and the applicant have talked and kind of came to an agreement on what the remaining items were, and I believe there was maybe 4 additional trees planted. That seemed to be a mutual agreement. So if the owners are in agreement with that, we just need to have that done so we can check that off our list. And the remaining last item was just talking about some paint color issues, but that was more just some commentary, and we're not really too concerned about that. So based on that, the bulk of the items have been addressed, but since there are just a couple little items, we're going to suggest maybe deferring this to the November meeting, which will be the first Tuesday in November, just to make sure that gives time to get those additional trees planted, get the final couple cleanup things taken care of, even though the bulk of it is done. So hopefully come November, everything's done and we can close this once and for all.
Comments from the commissioners?
Are you just looking for a direct motion to defer?
Yes, and if you want to give the petitioner any direction to have anything beyond, or any comments on any of the responses that we've gotten from him on here.
I think from my perspective, I would just, we gave you the 7 months, and just please take care of it before it's back here. Because I'm not going to be too inclined to have to keep reviewing these over and over and over and over again. So I moved that this be delayed back in February. So please, if there's a reason to come back here, let's make it a straight approval, not having to go through this stuff over and over again. That would be my 3 cents.
I'll second that motion in its entirety.
So if there's nothing else, I'll move to defer.
Does the petitioner want to add anything? Anything to say, or?
Yeah, the couple items, so the drainage, two things. One, that would be the northwest corner. The fiber optics box is probably 10 inches above, maybe a foot above that drain. I actually met the guy from the Marks Utilities from Hotline, and he couldn't tell me how deep they were to get a proper swale in there, how deep the fiber optics were. So I had someone dig by hand that trench to make sure with a machine we didn't tear something apart. But the reality is, to get that to go right, we got to have the second lift of asphalt done. We can't do that until we get this curb deferred or removed or whatever. The trees, I thought the whole next door neighbor and I discussed that it was all right. It's fine. Bob Lamb's contracted. He should be in there this week. They should be done. Put the other 4 in. I think those are the big ones.
Things.
Seating in the back?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it never gets any sun. I don't know what's going to grow back there, but.
I think the worry is if it stays, how does it maintain though? That's the big thing. It can't just be overgrowth.
Right. So something that looks more appealing for the area.
Rather than something that has maintenance, can he put a decorative stone or mulch back there instead of having a grass that he has to cut?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. As long as it's not used for storage, it's not supposed to be outside storage, but yeah, that's fine.
So you'd rather have like gravel, or you'd rather like a decorative
Not
gravel?
gravel, I think you need to have a decorative stone or mulch that's gonna, because the neighbor can see it right there and you just don't want to have another gravel pit.
A decorative gravel, I think, would work. I think that's what.
Yeah.
Is
It's
there
colored
any-
stone
Right.
Just a colored stone or mulch? I mean, you
or
tell
mulch,
me.
I would think.
I would
Mulch
prefer
is gonna
that. I'd
decompose,
prefer
it's gonna cause
I'd say
decomposition.
stone.
do stone, yeah. I don't.
Less maintenance.
Less maintenance and more.
Color,
less
I got
upkeep.
it here too. I mean, how
That-
far does that go?
I don't really regulate stone
Purple.
color.
I'll let Trevor get it.
All right,
It's fine. It's just not weeds.
I get it. Is there anything else that I missed on there that?
The one comment of, I can't control how people drive. That's why we have curb, and you ask for something around it, so.
Right.
If you have
I
any.
mean, I went and I just took pictures of the new asphalt that went in by the State Farm building. There's no curb there, right on Janesville. So, I mean, they completely tore out and replaced. And my opinion, I know we tore it out, but I truly, I don't know who saw it, but someone saw it. It was gravel that was left there. It had to be. There was no fixing it. So.
Okay. You know what we want, so November?
Wait, is that enough time for you guys? Or?
Yeah, I mean, this stuff will be done quick. The only things that I can't do anything
I do
about
understand that.
is that drainage.
That I get.
And
that swale,
What is
trying to create that permanent swale with the pedestal where, what is that, fiber? I'll defer to staff on that. I understand that. That's an uncommon problem, I think.
Sure.
So, outside of that, is November good? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this will be done quickly.
Okay. All right.
Make sure we take care of the neighbors. That's one of the main things.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll move to defer.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Continuing on with new business. Resolution PC 051, 2023, approval of a building site and operation plan for Citizens Bank located at South 75 West 17358 Janesville Road, tax key number 2193.088.001.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Excuse me, I'll second.
Thank you. Adam?
Thanks, Mayor. The city received a petition from Lamakia Group on behalf of Citizens Bank for a building site and operation plan approval for a new site development and building for a new freestanding bank branch. Citizens Bank is currently located inside the Pick and Save in Muskego and is looking to better serve their Muskego customers, and they feel they can do so with a full freestanding branch that has more traditional full branch accommodations. So they're looking at doing this building. The new building would be about 2,100 square feet. It would have two kind of drive-through or known as ITM facilities that would be function and serve like a drive-through typically would, which would be on the northern portion of the property. The new overall plan definitely actually shrinks kind of the impact to the site, if you want to word it. It's a smaller building, more centrally located, proper access all around it, actually much more green space areas, more grass areas behind the building. So it's actually will be reverting more of the space back to green than what is there today. As far as the design goes, overall, the general design guide and the downtown design guide apply to this area. The building is mostly proposed with brick blended with mid to dark earth tones, some charcoal metal panels on the upper portion of the building, and some accents on the southern side of the building. Entry vestibule has some large window panels, glass doors with different kinds of black frames and mullions. Similar large windows are located on all the other elevations. East elevation also includes a night deposit box, which kind of would have a maroon color metal background on that, as just to kind of stand out that there's something of importance there. The same color maroon is used on some of the horizontal accents on the awning stretching from the northern elevation and on the west side of the building to also cover the windows near the entry and on the south side of the building. Above the metal panels, there's some maroon awnings. It also has a roof feature that extends outward from the building with the white edge and wood grain soffit material. Lighting will be located behind the maroon banding, aimed up to illuminate that soffit. As I mentioned, there's two drive-through kiosks with awnings that are designed to match the general style of the building the awnings are. We do need to see a little bit more detail on the actual ITMs, which are the kind of the automated teller type machines. The way it will function is during business hours, you'll be talking to a teller via video, and they function more like a traditional ATM kind of, but a little bit more involved after business hours. But you can see the canopy structures have materials that match the building. It's just noted that they would need to, have similar colors on the ITMs units themselves. They didn't have exact designs on those, and they will work with staff on that to kind of just wrap those up at the time of permitting. Like I said, there's two drive-through lanes. These would be on the north part of the site, kind of separate from the building, not like a lot of people think of a traditional drive-through covered. It's got a little bit of a separation north there, which allows for some better traffic flow patterns and queuing area. As we mentioned, there's a night depository box on the east side of the building, which kind of looks like a drive-through lane, but it would serve as that depository drop area. As far as masonry goes, typically the design guide for general design guide looks to see 50% masonry overall, with also a combination of quality design. 3 of the sides in this building do exceed that. One side does not, but the overall percentage is where we want it to be, and given the quality design, staff is recommending approval of the proposed design and material breakups. As far as general site access goes, there is a site access being proposed on the west side of the site where Mishi Drive is. Waukesha County has determined from the conversations we've had that they're only going to allow one access point off of Janesville Road. There's been some very preliminary conversations, in my understanding, regarding working with the neighbor next door, which I know there's got to be more discussions on this, but to look to get cross-access easements from the neighbor to the east. So I know that's something that's going to be occurring more into the future with the owners next door and the potential bank customer working together to figure out what they can achieve that benefits both parties for cross-access. There could be some modifications to some of the curbing and stuff in that area, depending on what kind of agreement they work out as far as, what kind of access and site design works best between the two properties. So that's something that would be pending, but obviously something the bank is looking for to have that access off of Janesville Road. You will see that curbing is proposed throughout the site. We do want to see curb and gutter and not just a barrier curb, as we've had some issues with some barrier curbs in some locations. So even if it's only needed to not repel water, then maybe an invert curb is used. So that's one of the conditions listed as approval. As far as drive aisles and parking stall widths, everything meets or exceeds our width requirements for stalls, stall sizes and aisle sizes. As far as customer parking, they exceed our parking requirements by at least one stall on the parking that they're proposing on the site with the new development. As far as hours go, they're proposing lobby hours Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, Saturday from 9 to 8, with slightly varied hours for drive-through or ITM access. As far as dumpsters, they don't really have a need, given the size and nature of the business, to have a full-blown big dumpster enclosure. So they have kind of a smaller enclosure that's located behind the building with some more residential-sized cans that would be surrounded by some horizontal fencing. They would just have to provide us details of that at building permit review to ensure that it's fully screened. There is landscaping shown on a conceptual plan that we've been provided. We do have some questions on that. It hasn't gone through its full review yet as we kind of wait to see if there's any site development changes that would occur closer to the building permit stages. But just want to make sure that a lot of the typical landscape specifications we have identified in our landscape specification manual are being met. But so staff will work with them as that proceeds closer to building permit time, and that's usually covered as part of the building permit process. We are noting that any type of mechanical units, transformers, RTUs or any ground mounted units, we would just want to make sure those are amply screened by either some kind of screening, fencing, or landscaping. So that's one of the notes we have in our approval. Their lighting does appear to meet all the city's lighting requirements. We want to always reiterate the maximum height of any concrete base for a pole is listed at 6 inches in the ordinance. Just want to make sure that's identified. They kind of show some basic ideas of signage, but formal signage details would come separately as a staff permit down the road. They do show proposed monument signs along each of the frontages, which would be allowed. Stormwater shouldn't be a concern here as they have less impervious surface in the end, but our engineering staff will still vet the development to make sure drainage and runoff are handled appropriately. And yeah, those are the main items that staff has recommended. Now, one thing I kind of wanted to talk about that's a little different from what we see in the resolution in front of us. After talking with some of the development team today, their engineer, their attorney, things like that, on the third page of the resolution, which is page 60 in the packet, the third page of their resolution, it's the third be it further resolved item, does note that there is, one thing I kind of didn't talk about, is in that area where that cross access that they're working to hopefully obtain there is a current right-of-way. It's an area that was platted as right-of-way a long time ago, long before there were ever businesses in this area. It's a 20-foot, I looked into it today to verify, it's a 20-foot width for the right-of-way, but it's unused. It's kind of, it's always been there. It's kind of functions as part of the sites around it. As you go further north on Lake Drive, it does actually service as a small road much farther north, but there's really no pertinent reason to have it here. And when developments like this are done is when we look to kind of clean up these outlying things that really don't need to be there. So in talking with the applicants, I would request that someone make a motion to remove the be it further resolved that the petitioner must complete the Lake Drive right-of-way vacation prior to final occupancy. And what we kind of talked about is we'd like to recommend that be changed to be it further resolved that the city and the developer / buyer will work together to establish an agreement relating to the vacation of the unneeded. Let me rephrase that. The city and the developer buyer will work together to establish an agreement prior to the issuance of building permits relating to the vacation of the unneeded portion of Lake Drive right-of-way. We wanted to reword that. Number one, it makes the bank and the development team and the attorney more comfortable. We don't want them to think that we're going to hold up occupancy if there's some hiccup with the right-of-way vacation. We are doing this to show the intent that the bank is willing to work with us to proceed with the right-of-way vacation, but we don't want it to hold up anything or give any kind of nervousness to the bank. As I understand, they're spending a lot of money on this project, and that's a big what if. So our recommendation would be removing that one section, replacing with the other. Other than that, we don't have any specific changes recommended.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm just curious, between the building and the ATMs, there's a lot of space. What's going to be there? Is it grass? Is it a picnic area?
If one of you guys would want to come up to the microphone, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Just seems far away from the building, which is unusual.
Well, it just allows for all that stacking for the ITM without having a massive amount of pavement there as well by separating them out that far from the building. With these ITMs, we don't need any tube structures or any connection to the building anymore, so we can turn it over to more green space, reduce less or have less runoff, allow more water to be absorbed through the site.
So are the tubes or the kiosks going underground, or
There are no
they don't even
tubes.
connect
So
with the?
What it is, it's called an ITM, interactive teller machine. So instead of having a tube that you send your money through, they function the same way. You would drop your deposit in the machine. Your teller, if you need one, could either be in this branch, or if you were to develop an operations center, they could be remote, working from another branch. Allows more efficiency for the financial institution.
So basically an ATM machine, not sending your checks in, getting cash.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, you'd still be sending your checks and you just feed them into the machine.
The machine holds it.
Out there.
Right.
Right.
Technology.
Yeah, essentially they're scanned and gone that way.
That's an interesting concept. So the ATM machine, basically, yeah, you could just, a bunch of them could just speak to a customer operations center and.
Yeah. You can dispense cash, can take
Depending on
things
the
in.
size of the institution, some places have those all being remotely handled, even in different cities.
Do you have a sense of how many full-time employees will be there?
In this branch, I believe there are going to be about 6 at time working, right? In your other branches, about how many employees do you have at one time working?
There will probably be 4.
4, maybe up to 6 on like a Friday afternoon. No.
Still in state 4, there'd be 4 people, they're meeting with customers for trying out loans and things, but you can operate a bank branch with 2 to 3 people. The customers that come in nowadays, nobody's doing it on here.
And there's a basic floor plan in the packet too that shows, they have some office spaces from your customers, some back office space, counter space. So it still has those normal functions a branch would.
Yes, the offices are still available for people to use. There just might not be somebody there every day, day in, day out.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments? Any other ones?
So that Lake Drive potentially vacated area is a no man's land between the 2 buildings, is that?
It's technically a gap owned by the city. Yep. That's
said that was
used for parking and access as we speak.
You said that was on the north side of this building?
It's east side.
Oh, the
Side of
east
that-
side.
It's between Muskego Beer and Liquor and.
Yeah, okay. It's not really identified here?
Yeah, there's
It's got a dotted
some,
line.
yes, if you look like at the,
Oh, yeah, okay.
the map
Yeah,
that
I
was
got
got in
it.
front of you, it kind of shows it.
Doesn't show up on that.
Okay.
So in regard to that easement then, so it's going to get adjusted if the drive access easement from the neighbor is also allowed.
Yeah, it would make sense to do the vacation first, so we know what we're working, because the law of the easement is, the vacation, half goes to each adjacent owner. So that's an automatic thing. So basically, each owner's gonna get 10 feet on each side if it gets vacated. We'd only ask to vacate it to the back of this property in question, even though it goes further up and not all of it's utilized. We would just go to the extent of this project. If it gets vacated, which would come back here, half goes to each owner. And then the easement then would be more pertinent, because you don't need an easement over right away, you need it over private land, and that's where the 2 owners would have to work out the details of the easement agreement.
Okay, that clears it up. So the motion, that you're looking for a motion here to work with the,
There's a motion to amend that's requested to remove which whereas?
To remove the third whereas, talking about requiring that the road must be vacated before occupancy, and leaving it more to the idea of entering to an agreement of how we're gonna make this happen. The reason we did that was to remove the what if there would be a hiccup or something. We don't want that to cause them a hiccup to get in their building.
okay, and that motion's on the table?
Well, the motion approves on the table, so we need a motion to amend.
So
Aye.
moved.
I will second.
Yes, we're doing that, yes.
Good grab, good grab.
Very good.
Any discussion on the
So
motion?
you're free to negotiate with Muskego Beer and Liquor, and as far as what you guys work
The
out is
process
fine?
already
Okay,
started.
all right, that's great, thank you.
So any further discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Need to add anything? No, we're good at whatever.
No, I think we're good with that.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Resolution PC 052, 2023, approval of a building site and operation amendment plan for Schultz Gun Club located at West 146 South 8125 Schultz Lane, tax key number 2213.982.
Move to approve?
I'll second.
Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. Schultz Gun Club is looking at adding a bathroom facility, as was mentioned. What they're looking at doing is kind of an easy approach. It's a prefab building, definitely nice looking on the plans compared to a lot of other prefab buildings we've seen before. It's kind of like a masonry or concrete building. It's about 258 square feet, but it will meet their needs for men's and women's bathrooms. It'll be located near their existing pole building. Approximately 10.5 feet in height. The entire building is molded concrete, but it will have different colors and different features. So we'll have like a shiplap siding kind of a appearance and a shingle appearance, even though it will be like concrete material. They will be painting different features in different colors to kind of make it look aesthetically pleasing. So staff is recommending approval as proposed, and they would just need a building permit to formally place it.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Resolution PC 053-2023, recommend to the Common Council to repeal and recreate Section 386 floodplain zoning of the City of Muskego Municipal Code.
So moved.
I will second it.
Adam?
Thank you. Let me just get the details here. So what this is FEMA is updating their floodplain maps. They do this throughout they do it across the United States. This one, though, is based upon like a watershed area. So there's been a few areas of floodplain mapping in this city that the city, since 2008 at least, maybe even earlier, when they did a bunch of new mapping, we believe was kind of incorrect. The mapping just didn't make sense. There's a few neighborhoods. Quietwood Creek is a perfect one that comes to my head, where a lot of houses were mapped in the floodplain that really don't ever appear to be. And even looking at some of the worst floods, things don't make sense. So we've kind of petitioned through the normal processes that are out there with the state and FEMA to say, hey, if you guys are ever doing these maps, these are areas we should be looking at to redo, because they ask us that for once in a while. So this has taken years to get to this point. I've been telling residents that this was in the works for, 8 years or so, and it's just because FEMA took some time. Yep. So anyway, we're there. We're finally there. We're in this period. So we have to update our ordinance to reflect these new maps. So that's really what this is doing. What it's doing is it's repealing the old ordinance, creating a new one, because there were a lot of just small reference changes, but it would make sense to just do it this way. What it's going to do is it updates our language to meet all of the FEMA and DNR requirements that are out there, so that way we're compliant with all the DNR FEMA laws, which allow our residents to be able to purchase flood insurance if they want to do so. And as part of that new ordinance then, and the new verbiage, even though the effectiveness of it is intensely the same, it's really doing the same thing we did before, it's just the text they want to see now. It also references those new maps and stuff like that. So this already went to a public hearing. We had no comments. So we'll proceed to Common Council next week for hopeful adoption. After that, we send it to FEMA and DNR, so they just give it some final checks and balances, and we should be all set then. And this would be the new norm, but it's really not much of a departure from what was there already.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Is there any other miscellaneous business? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 6:33.